Hi there, I'm Renata McElvany, a creativity coach for neurodivergent and multi-passionate women of color. And in this show, we talk about creativity, not just as a hobby, but as a tool for our self-discovery, our joy, and everything in between. So before we dive in, I want to invite you to get cozy, grab a snack, or even just take a deep breath as you settle into the space. And let's jump in. Today, I want to talk to you about something that has been in my heart, in my mind, that I feel like a lot of people are going to be able to relate to. And that is this idea of feeling like we have to self sacrifice, like we have to suffer when the world is on fire and everyone is feeling a sense of urgency to do everything and anything to make this world a livable place. And how that really hits hard as a sensitive and intuitive, empathic person. Because if you're like me, I'm just going to be real with you. The last couple of weeks, the last months, if you live in the US, have been so heavy. They have been so challenging. And it's been hard. It's been hard to feel like there's hope and that there's joy to be had because the world is on fire and we need to be doing everything and anything, right? All hands on deck. And it's been challenging because when that happens, my tendency is to want to stop doing everything that makes me feel happy. And I think this is a real tendency that many people who are heart centered, who care about the world, who care about people, who want to make a difference, big or small, have to face at some point or another. So let's talk about why martyrdom isn't the best strategy and how it often disguises itself as care, and also why joy and hope are the vehicle that we want to use to keep moving forward, why it matters. And lastly, I want to share with you some ideas for ways that you can invite more joy and hope into your world, even if everything is on fire, without feeling like we have to ignore the realities of the world. So basically, the way that I want to treat this episode is building the case for why hope matters, why joy matters. If this is something that you have been struggling with, you are in the right place. Let's dive in. So let's talk about the sneaky ways that martyrdom hides under the guise of caring. And this came to me because I was thinking about how often I've been in spaces where people who care a lot, who want to make a difference, tend to be the people that sacrifice a lot. I have seen this in many places, for example, in my own life, like thinking about my parents who migrated to the US and who often give everything to give us a better life. And many other parents are like my parents who have given everything to make sure that their children have access to opportunities that they didn't have. I think about so many activists in the world and throughout time who gave everything for their communities, for their families as well, and only to end up dying and no one realizing how much work they put in and how much they sacrifice often their mental health and just everything to be able to do the work that they did. And I've also seen this mindset show up in school, at work. And so, for example, when I was in college, and I think this is a very common experience, many students take pride in pulling all nighters and always being busy and always doing stuff, always staying busy basically to prove that they are very dedicated, that they care about what they are doing. And so we start to kind of accept this idea that we always have to be doing things to prove our worth, to prove that we really care, that we're good people, because what kind of a good person doesn't get involved? I think that that same energy is what we bring into our activism, into our community work. There's also a lot of guilt that gets built up when we feel like we have to sacrifice everything because when we want to rest, it feels indulgent. Actually, this episode came to me because I was scrolling on my Instagram like I typically do after work, and it was one of those days when I was thinking like I want to do something, I want to do more. I feel like I'm not doing enough, and so I went on my Instagram. I'm scrolling, looking through all these posts, and by the end of it all, I felt so freaking overwhelmed and hopeless and guilty for feeling like I am out here in the West living my best life while there's people dying in the other side of the world who are starving. There's just so much suffering. And who am I to be having fun and creating? And that's the thing that I realized, that when things get hard, when I feel like I have to do more, when there's that pressure, the first thing that I want to sacrifice is my creativity, which is the very thing that makes me happy, the very thing that brings me joy. It's crazy to me that that's the first thing that I want to get rid of when it comes to my productivity or my to-dos. The first thing that has to go is my creativity. Can you relate? Is this something that you are also struggling with or have struggled with? And the problem with approaching life like this is that this is not sustainable. It's really hard to be able to sustain the fight that is ahead of us, not just in this time or in this country, but for the rest of our lives, right? There's always going to be something that we're going to be working through, a challenge, an obstacle. But if we don't make time to take care of ourselves, to experience more joy, more hope, we are not going to be able to do this for the long term. We're not going to be able to sustain the fight that is needed from us for the long term. And that's what I am talking to you today. I want to really emphasize this point, that if we really care and we really want to make a difference, we really have to take care of ourselves first. We have to make sure that we are resourced, that we are energized so that we can do the work that we want to do in the world. So now that I talked a little bit about martyrdom and self-sacrifice, and I talked about how it doesn't work, the next question is, what does, right? What helps? What can help us to sustain ourselves for the long term? And the answer is hope and joy, actually. Why? You might be asking yourself, why hope and joy? Well, hope is what gives us the ability to think about a different future, to be able to dream big, to be able to tap into a different energy, a different way of living that is not currently what we're experiencing. And joy is what gives us the ability to live outside of the struggle, right? Be able to recharge and renew. And this one is so important because I think that when we live under systems of oppression like capitalism and white supremacy and all the other things, the tendency is to be very focused on the struggle and the suffering and feeling fear and feeling scared, right? And we really need to tap into a different way of living, a way that isn't focused on suffering, which is very much what we are used to. Practicing joy helps us to step outside of this reality and tap into a different energy that we need to be able to stay grounded and excited about the fight that we are in. And that is what is going to help us to move forward. We need to have those two things in our toolbox to be able to feel like we can look forward to the future. So just to bring it all together, hope and joy are necessities and they are part of our resistance. And I think that this is going to be something that I'm going to keep harping on and on about, because I feel like so many of us underestimated the power of these two things. And I really want us to understand that this is necessary for us to be able to sustain the fight that is ahead of us for the foreseeable future. So now I want to share with you 5 different ways that you can incorporate joy and hope into your daily routine. And I want you to think of these as mini rituals that you can start to play with, that you can start to experiment with, that don't require you to spend more money and that are within reach, which is why I'm really excited to share these ideas. The first is to read or listen to something inspiring. Personally, I've been going back to poetry because I want to fill my life with beauty, with possibility. And reading in general allows us to tap into a different timeline, think about a different way of looking at the world. There's something about getting lost in a book that is really energizing, really helpful to renew our spirit. So I really recommend it. The second idea that I have for you is to spend time with people who love you. Share how you're feeling, talk to your friends about whatever is going on for them as well, and be able to support each other. This is one of the ways that you can make the biggest difference in the world. And we can start within our own circles, within the people that we have influence and reach over, however you say it. Yeah, this is an extremely powerful way to make a difference. And I'm reminded that we don't have to go across the pond or into a whole other continent to make a difference. We can do that within our communities, within our neighborhoods. We don't have to go far to make a difference. So if that's something that you really care about, this is a great thing to practice. The third idea that I have for you is to create something. Of course, I'm going to say this as a creativity coach, right? But whether it's cooking, writing, knitting, drawing, whatever that means for you, I want you to make time to create, because creation is a powerful way to reclaim your joy. And again, when we're in that mindset, when we're in that space of creating, possibilities are endless, and we really tap into a different energy that can allow us to not only think about ideas for a better future, but also be able to troubleshoot and come up with creative ways to tackle things that we are dealing with today. So definitely make time for creation. The next idea that I have for you is to connect with something greater than yourself, whether that's spirit, the creator, your ancestors, whatever you want to call it, whatever grounds you, let it hold you, and spend time connecting. The last idea that I have for you is to go outside. Simply observe, notice what's around you. I love doing this. I love going to the beach and just looking at the sky and looking at how beautiful it is, how expansive it feels. Just being out in nature allows us to reconnect with something greater than ourselves. Going back to the last point, but also it helps us to be grateful for what we already have, what's already within us. Connecting to nature also reminds us to continue to fight for Mother Earth, for the animals that live in this planet, and for ourselves. So I was listening to some other podcast, and the folks running it were talking about how nature, how birds particularly don't stop chirping. They are alive and they wake up every morning, do what they do, and they're not having these existential crises wondering if their life is worthwhile. So I thought that was a really inspiring idea, just how nature keeps doing its thing. And so it's also our duty to keep showing up, and we don't have to burn out to do this. So step outside and enjoy nature. So those were some of my ideas for you. I would love to know what you are going to be trying. So please drop it in the comments if you are on YouTube. And although these ideas are not revolutionary, I do think that they are ideas that we can put into practice, and they are within reach. So that's what makes them powerful. We are nearing the end of the episode, so I want to go over what we just talked about. We discussed how self-sacrifice and martyrdom are often seen as care. We also talked about how hope and joy are essential. They are not nice to haves. And finally, I shared some ideas of things that you can do to invite more hope and joy into your daily life in ways that don't require you to spend more money. I hope that after listening to this episode, you remember that your hope and your joy are not the villains. I hope that you realize that you don't have to punish yourself to show that you care. Lastly, I hope that you realize that you are allowed to do things that bring you happiness, and that it's okay to put yourself first. That's it for today's episode. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe, and share with somebody that needs to be reminded that their joy is not something that they should feel guilty about. And don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. This is where I share personal reflections, creative prompts, and any upcoming offerings. You can find the link in the show's description. Thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you on the next one. Until then, stay creative. Bye.